Hello, it's Mrs. Barton here, and today I'm going to tell you how to cook a very easy recipe which we sometimes call camping donuts because they are that easy that you could actually make them over a campfire, over a camp stove. I'm not going to do that today, I'm just going to do them here in my kitchen, but I'm going to show you how to make them and hopefully you'll be able to do that and they'll taste delicious. It's not a healthy eating recipe, I'm afraid, but they're not quite as bad as the donuts that you might buy in a shop. Before I start, I usually like to make sure that I've got all of my equipment and all of my ingredients ready before I go. So the resources that I need a knife, just an ordinary knife. I need a fork. A whisk is a good idea. A chopping board is a good idea. I like to have 2 cups ready, a couple of plates, a wooden spoon. I'll need my frying pan and one of these things, which I believe is called a fish slice. I think we just call it a spatula because we don't eat fish in our house. And the other useful thing is a pair of tongs. The other thing that I like to do before I get started is I like to make sure that I've got all of my ingredients ready. So for this recipe, we need sliced white bread. Thin sliced white bread's better. We need jam. You could also use chocolate spread or maybe Biscoff spread or peanut butter might work, I suppose. You need self-raising flour. Poof. Plain flour would be fine, although the self-raising flour just helps your donuts to puff up a little bit. You will need an egg. You will need some milk. You will need some caster sugar. You could use ordinary granulated sugar. Caster sugar's got those slightly smaller crystals, so it's better to use for baking. And you'll need some oil for cooking. So we're looking at sunflower oil or vegetable oil rather than olive oil. And last of all, I like to add a little bit of vanilla essence. It just adds a bit of extra flavour to your donuts. First things first, before you start cooking, always make sure you wash your hands. Always make sure you wash your hands anyway, but especially in these COVID times, make sure you start with clean hands. So we're going to start by making the batter. Basically, it's the same as pancake batter. So if you've got any left over at the end, you could always make yourself a couple of cheeky pancakes. So you have a large mixing bowl or a jug, and I'm going to weigh out in cups because I think that makes it a lot easier. So you put in 1 cup of flour. Some people like to sift it. I think life's too short. And then you add 1 cup of milk. You're then going to break an egg into your bowl. So to break an egg, hold your egg on the side, tap it firmly on the side of your cup and break it in. I always like to do it into a cup first, just in case I get any bits of shell in there. It's always a lot easier to fish bits of shell out of a cup than it is from your mixing bowl. Give your egg a stir. Then pour your egg into your mixture. Add a pinch of salt. If you've got a salt grinder, just a couple of turns. And then add your vanilla essence or vanilla extract. It's quite a strong flavour, so what I suggest doing is just pour a bit into the lid and then into your mixture, rather than trying to pour it directly from the bottle. And then use your whisk or a spoon or a fork to give it a really, really good stir round. So give it a good stir until your batter is smooth and you've got rid of any lumps. There we go, and then I'll put that to one side. The next stage is you're going to make a jam sandwich. So 2 slices of bread. Normally, if I was making a sandwich, I'd make it with butter, but because I'm making a donut, I'm not making it with butter. I'm just going to go straight to the jam. There we go. Oh, some nice big strawberries in this one. So I want to spread my jam quite thickly. I want to try and avoid going right over to the side because then that will spill out into my frying pan. But I want to try and get it fairly even. So I put my other slice of bread on top. And then what I want to do is I want to cut my crusts off. So I can use the same knife. And I'm holding my bread flat with that hand and cutting my crusts off with the other hand. Obviously being careful not to slice through my thumb, that would be messy. Blood in your donuts would be a bad idea. So there's my sandwich without its crusts. Next, slice it in half. You can either go for rectangles or you can go for a bit more of a party effect and you can go for triangles. My next thing is that I take my batter. Now this is a stage where it's easier if you've got tongs. You can just fish about with a fork or you could even get in there with your fingers. But dip your sandwich into your batter, turn it round and round until it's well coated. There we go, I'm going to put that on a plate for a minute. Same with the other one. Dip my sandwich in the batter, round and round. Make sure it's well coated and whoa, there we go, stick it on my plate for a moment. After you've dunked your sandwiches in your batter, the next thing you want to do is to turn your frying pan on. So I'm going to light my cooker. With my frying pan, I need to be really, really careful not to leave the handle sticking out. If I leave the handle sticking out, I could walk into it and then there'd be a horrible accident. So I always make sure if I'm not holding onto it, that my handle is tucked away to one side. I'm going to add some oil to my frying pan, probably about a tablespoon. As I said before, it's not a healthy eating recipe. And then I wait for my oil to heat up a little bit. I might swoosh my oil around the frying pan a bit, then it's spread out. Okay, you can usually smell when the oil's started to heat up a bit. When you can smell the oil cooking, that's a sign it's warming up. So I get my batter soaked sandwiches and I put them in the oil ready to cook. And the other one. There we go. With my sandwiches, I don't want to prod at them straight away with my spatula, because if I do that, the batter will just stick to the bottom of the frying pan and it won't move around too well. So I'll leave that for a minute or two, and while that's going on, I'm going to get my plate ready. Here's my plate. And on my plate, I'm going to put some caster sugar. I should probably give you an amount, but actually, I think the official term would be a pile of caster sugar. Just spread it out a bit like that. Now I can hear my camping donuts are starting to cook. They're sizzling a little bit. And if I prod them with my spatula, they move easily. And that's showing me that it's time to flip them over. Once I flip them, I might even squash them down a bit to make sure that they cook through and that they're pushed into the heat. They're cooking thoroughly. Don't be tempted to push them round the frying pan because that will just spread out the batter. And what you want them to do is to cook thoroughly. Oh, I forgot to turn my handle on again, didn't I? There we go. You've made enough batter so that you could probably make about 8 donuts, depending on how much you coated them. Or you could just make a couple, and then as I said earlier, you'd have enough batter left over for pancakes afterwards. Now that's sizzling away nicely, so I'm just going to turn that one over. Oh no, it's still a bit pale, it could do with a bit longer, I think. What about my other one? Oh, yes, also cooking nicely. You want them to be a little bit of a golden brown colour. So again, usually when you can smell them cooking, that's when they're getting ready. I'm pressing it down again just to make sure it's really cooked through. There we go. I'm turning off my heat. I'm fishing my donut out of the pan and I'm putting it in the sugar while the oil's still hot. And I'm going to go back to my tongs and I'm going to use my tongs to coat it with sugar on both sides. There we go, same with the other one. Sugar on that side, sugar on that side. And then I add it to my plate, ready for serving. And there you go, camping donuts. Don't eat them absolutely straight away because they'll be really, really hot.